Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Keith Silva. It's time for Bird Notes, and today we're beginning at the end. As our loyal viewers know, at the end of every Bird Notes program, we provide an email address and an address for you to send your bird-related questions in, and today we're going to share some of those from the past year. Joining me as he has every month for the past 20 plus years is Audubon, Vermont's Mark Labar. Merry Christmas, Mark, and Happy New Year.
Yep, Happy New Year to you too, Keith.
Excellent.
Always great to be here.
Well, thank you. We're glad you're here. Got a lot to cover today. Without any further ado, let's get to our first email, which comes from Priscilla Redinger, who's asking about bluebird houses. And she writes, "We would love to install bluebird houses in the field bordering our home and need advice on the type and placement." Mark, what's your advice for Priscilla?
So, it's an interesting time to think about bluebirds as we're kind of heading into the middle of winter, but they do stick around, and that's a picture of your typical bluebird box, kind of the standard bluebird box that you can either make or you can buy.
I've heard you call them nest boxes.
Nest boxes, yeah. And because there's a lot of different birds that will use those, tree swallows, chickadees, and depending on the placement. So if she can find a place that's out in a field or out in the yard or something like that, you're likely to, favor bluebirds. You put it closer to the edge of the woods, and you're going to pick up things like chickadees that'll take advantage of it. So depending what her situation is, if she can put some out away from the woods, her chances of getting bluebirds increase.
So rather than bordering the field, put it out in the middle of the field.
Right.
That's going to get bluebirds.
That's going to be, her
more
best
likely,
chance.
More likely.
Maybe tree swallows, yes, but that's the best way to do it.
Okay. Another bluebird-related question. Robert Batten wrote to say, 2 years ago we had 5 bluebirds winter over. I'm assuming 2 adults and 3 offspring. I'm amazed they can survive given the daily caloric intake they have to consume. So he sent some of these couple pictures in. Why are bluebirds still here?
So bluebirds, robins, some of these thrushes that are in the same group, they have the ability to stick around, and they'll take advantage of food sources such as fruit.
In winter.
In wintertime.
Okay.
That one picture there is that, they'll feed on sumac. They might feed on highbush cranberry. And oftentimes you'll see them in and around yards because they will feed on planted crabs, ornamental crab apples, things of any kind of berry-producing food, and that gives them enough sustenance to get through the winter months.
Okay. All right. Good for the bluebirds. Our next viewer email, which comes with a photo, a very striking photo, I should say, from Mary Whitcomb. She writes, "This morning I heard a whump and went to the window to check it out. I was very surprised to see this beautiful bird perched on my fence. Sadly, I found 3 dead carcasses from small birds nearby. I am hoping it continued on its way north to Canada and is now long gone."
Yeah, so this is a merlin.
A merlin.
Which is a falcon. It's our smallest falcon, and I'm not surprised that she saw dead smaller birds because that's a primary prey source for merlins. And they'll come in, especially folks have a feeder set up or something like that. If they're still around or in migration, they'll come in and they'll come to the bird feeders because they're a bird too. They just don't eat the seed.
That's right. That's right. If our director, Chris Pauk, could pull up that image again of the merlin, just want folks to take a look at the talons that are wrapped around that fence post. Those, no wonder why there's some dead birds nearby.
Very effective, and it's a fast bird, so as many of the falcons are. So, they're pretty good at what they do.
They're pretty good at what they do. Well, thank you, Mary. And our next email comes from Maxine Freeman. And Maxine writes, "Some friends saw a small bird about the size of a sparrow fly by. It was totally white. Are there albino birds? Love your show. Thank you, Maxine."
So this is not the actual picture, but it's a picture of a leucistic bird.
Leucistic.
And it's different than albinoism, but we often find it in birds. You can see this cardinal like this with...
This is a cardinal.
This is a cardinal, yes. And you can see by that big orange bill and that it doesn't have its crest up. But it does have some red, and it has some of this white with it. You can find, I remember getting a picture from somebody, a pileated woodpecker that was all white except for its big red crest.
Okay.
So this is not common in birds, but it's not uncommon either, and one can often see many different species take on some Leucistic tendencies, a tough word.
A tough word, a good word. It's good we're teaching folks new words. Leucistic. Try to use it in your next conversation with your friends. I was going to say with the leucistic bird, I thought that was maybe molting, and you were quick to. So that was a cardinal. It's just a genetic difference.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, molting cardinals. We often get, folks will write in and they'll say, my cardinal showed up at the feeder and it's bald. Okay, because it's lost its crest.
Yep.
And would be typical of molting that you would see.
All right, well, you're the Audubon expert, not me. Our next email isn't a question as much as a celebration. Shirley Nutting writes, so excited. 3 exclamation points. Thanks for those, Shirley. I have several tufted titmouses at my feeders and a large variety of birds that frequent my feeders, but have never had these birds. Happy to share with you. Have a great day. Now, this image that we have of the tufted titmouse was not one that Shirley sent us, but this is a perfect example.
Yeah, this is a great shot of a tufted titmouse, and they're an interesting species at the Audubon. I've been working there 25 plus years, and when I was first there, we never had titmice at our feeders. So they're a bird that has slowly expanded into Vermont, in part because people put feeders out, the relatives of the chickadees. And so they've slowly spread into different areas of Vermont for us at the Audubon maybe 10 years ago. But now it seems like Shirley's got them, and they're a fun little bird to have around, and they come to feeders all the time.
And titmices, plural for titmouse?
I'm going to have to check myself on that one. It's like Canada, Canada goose and Canada, right?
Exactly.
Not Canadian.
Right.
Yes.
I was like, I'm learning 2 things: leucistic and then titmice, as opposed to titmouse. Another excited birder, Tyler, sent in a picture of a hawk. And Tyler writes, my hawk is back. Can't believe how close he let me get. Mark, this brings up a question for me. It's a very fine picture that Tyler sent in. But what do you look for when people send, what is this? Are you looking at plumage, size, what?
All of that stuff.
Okay.
And, even in the case like this where you have, and it's tough to kind of tell whether it's a Sharpie or a Cooper's. The tail feathers suggest maybe a Cooper's, but it is small too. But you can see how this bird is sitting upright as opposed to maybe a jay that might sit more horizontally on a branch. But this is another example of a bird that's taking advantage of our feeders, and it's coming in, and of course there are smaller birds that are coming into the feeder, and that's what these
sort of like the
woodland
merlin
hawks, just like the merlin.
Okay.
So, and if that bird is intent on getting something, you can get quite close to him.
You can get quite close.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of which, Shirley Twitchell emailed and asked, Mark, I have 2 or 3. I tried for 2 or 3 days to get a picture of these birds, and none came out. Can you tell me what they are?
So this is a purple finch. This is a bird that comes to feeders regularly in the wintertime, and folks can see them. We get them sometimes at the Audubon. They tend not to be like chickadees that show up at pretty much every feeder that you put out in Vermont. But this is a great little bird, with some great colors that just make winter that much more, enjoyable.
The purple finch.
The purple finch.
Now, is that a bird like the titmouse that we see them more frequently in Vermont that we maybe wouldn't from a few years ago?
No, actually, purple finches have been around as much. They've been present in Vermont for a longer time than say the titmouse.
Titmouse, okay.
Yeah.
Titmice, depending on where you come from.
Yes.
From birds aplenty to birds a few, our last email comes from Jenny Wilson. She writes, good morning, Mark. I was just wondering if you have any idea why I have fewer birds at my feeder this year. I've been feeding birds all my adult life in Massachusetts and Vermont, and I can't think I'm doing anything different. So is Ginny doing anything wrong?
No. In fact, if she's, providing seed and food and she's had birds in the past, that means obviously, birds are welcome at her feeder and taking advantage of it. But there's a lot of different factors that can affect how many birds come to a feeder. Okay. Those woodland hawks, the Sharpies and the Coopers, are 2 of them. They don't often come in and sit on your feeder. They'll sit secretly up in the trees. You don't see them, but when they're there, the birds won't come around your feeder.
Right.
Your neighbor's cat can be another thing. Or even if, you know, more people in your neighborhood decide to put up feeders, those birds have a larger selection, so they may move around from feeder station to feeder station. Go ahead.
I was going to say, is there a way to attract more birds? I'm trying to help Ginny out here a little bit in my own ham-handed way. Is there a way to attract more birds to your yard? Are there things you can do?
You know, the big thing I think is offering them a selection of food. So, you know, a tube feeder filled with sunflower seeds, suet for your woodpeckers and your nuthatches, a platform feeder, which can hold bigger food items and also support larger birds, so your cardinals and your jays and things like that. So a diversity of feeders really is the best way to get the most variety of birds to your feeder.
And if you're interested in a program that we did about bird feeders, I would encourage you to watch our November program, which was all about bird feeders and feeding birds and not feeding squirrels for certain. Mark, we have a student working with us right now who is a birder. And he was telling me that he has a bird that he's trying to see all of one particular bird, the chickadee, in fact. Not a secret, Caleb may. Caleb's been tracking chickadees. Do you have a favorite bird?
You know, it's kind of interesting, depending on what I do. I do like the chickadee. Chickadees are, you know, they stick around all winter, very adaptable. You know, I band birds. They're feisty little birds in the hand, so I do like chickadees. The gray catbird, because that was the first bird that I had ever held. And we catch a lot of them at our banding station down at Audubon. They're not here now. They're heading off to Central America, and I'll be following them, heading down to Belize, or I just got back from Belize.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and so hopefully we'll bring some pictures for a future show of Across the Fence.
All right. Well, look forward to it. And if you have any bird-related question that you want answered, email Mark at mlabar@audubon.org. Send Mark question, pictures, and he'll find the answers for you, and you might even be featured on an upcoming edition of Across the Fence Bird Notes. Thanks to everyone here at WCX Behind the Scenes for making us look and sound good. For more Bird Notes programs, visit our social media channels on YouTube and Facebook by searching Across the Fence. I'm Keith Silva from all of us across the fence. Happy New Year.